there's that. Everybody, it's Amanda.
And Rick.
And it is time for our evening Bible study.
Yes.
Hello. It's very early evening for us, for the Bible study anyway.
You may even notice it's maybe a little brighter. It's not dark yet.
It's not, but it will be soon enough. And we are here. This is the time I'd actually like to do it on a daily basis. You know, really right around the 7 o'clock hour. But we'll see if we can make that a more permanent thing. Yay! I'm glad you like the early evenings, Heather. We're really trying to work it out. So, because right now Rick's schedule is that he's getting up at 4 a.m. And so staying up late does not work when you have to get up so early. So we're trying to get it to where it's more functional for us, but we'll see.
I got the thumbnail.
Yay.
The notification, I mean.
You've been notified.
I have. Mm-hmm. I hope everyone has. At least you have, Heather. We are in where? We're Joshua 4, right?
We are. She said Trey, who I'm assuming is her husband, has come home more than once to her passed out in the middle of our Bible study because she's not a night person. She's also not a 4 a.m. person. Yeah. I'm definitely not a night person. I was halfway passed out through many of our late ones. So even last night, which wasn't super late, but we're just so used to getting up early now, I was like really struggling to get through it. But now he's
already yawning.
Have some coffee.
I know. You know, traditionally, I am a night person, and I like to stay up late, wide awake, coffee and everything. Mm-hmm. But I'm not superhuman, and when you force me to get up at 4 a.m., not you force me, but when I need to get up at 4 a.m., it does kind of it makes the nights tougher. Mm-hmm. Ideally, I would stay up at night, but I find myself on these live events fighting the yawns, and I get frustrated because I'm like, well, I don't want to yawn, you know, but you know, you can't do it. You can't fight it.
My Grace Are You says, hi there. Haven't sat in one of your sat in one of your lives in quite a bit. How are we doing? We're doing great.
Mm-hmm. We're in Joshua chapter 4.
Yeah, we're doing really good. Yep. Trying to think of any updates. Nothing. I mean, on one hand, I feel like we talk about it every day, but if you haven't been here in a while, we've had a couple of our children fly the nest and another getting ready to. So we're starting to feel that emptying nest. But everything's good.
Yeah, most of the time it's just here at the house. It's just my wife, myself, obviously, and our daughter. Marquise, he went to school yesterday, or toward his school. He's staying in an apartment off campus.
He moved in his own apartment.
So he's there. He's set now for a while. He's on his own. Mm-hmm. And when the semester ends, he is, not coming back. That's the plan. So, we'll miss him. I mean, after 5 years or so. You know, the funniest thing? I was telling my wife, so we dropped Marquise off yesterday at college. And I'm like, okay, that's the goodbye.
At his apartment, not at the college.
Well, not the college.
We're so used to him being in the dorms.
The college is here, and you can throw a stone to the apartment.
No, it's not that close.
Well, I got a good arm. Anyhow. Anyway. But to me, it's like dropping him off at the college. But okay, all right. If you want to be technical, we dropped him off at the apartment. Well, anyway, so I'm thinking, okay, that's the big goodbye. It's over. 5 years. Oh, wow. Time has flown. And I'm still dealing with the goodbyes and everything. I get home from work and I walk into the house and she's FaceTiming him. Mm-hmm. And I hear his voice echoing through the house. And I'm like, didn't I just say goodbye to you? And there he is. So
no, he had to get my opinion because he was rearranging all of his furniture in his apartment.
Yeah.
And so
does the bed look good here? Does the dresser look good there?
Well, it was the dresser
that he was look good there?
About, but he needed a woman's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Anyway, all right. Well, we are in Joshua chapter 4, and I'm going to read the whole chapter, and it's a little long. It's 24 verses. But it's just continuing from the story that we talked about last night. Last night, we talked about how the Lord wanted to show the people Joshua and his authority, and that the Lord was going to be with him like he was with Moses. And also, I can't remember the word that we repeated it so many times last night, but it's just escaping me right now. But he was also showing that without fail, he would drive out all of their enemies and they would have the promised land. So the Israelites walked over the Jordan on dry land, just like they walked over the Red Sea. And this was just a really significant event. So in Joshua 4, they're going to talk about how they commemorate that event because it's so significant, and how they're going to teach their children. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So if you guys are ready and you have your Bible, we're in Joshua chapter 4. I'm going to start at verse 1. I'll read to the end and we will talk about it. So, ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. Joshua 4, verse 1, it says, "And it came to pass when all the people were clean passed over Jordan, that the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, Take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe a man. And command ye them, saying, Take you hence out of the midst of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm, 12 stones. And ye shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place where ye shall lodge this night. Then Joshua called the 12 men, whom he had prepared of the children of Israel, out of every tribe a man. And Joshua said unto them, Pass over before the ark of the Lord your God in the midst of Jordan, and take ye up every man of you a stone upon his shoulder, according unto the number of the tribes of the children of Israel. That this may be a sign among you, that when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What mean ye by these stones? Then ye shall answer that the waters of Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over Jordan, the waters of Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be for a memorial unto the children of Israel forever. And the children of Israel did so as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones out of the midst of Jordan, as the Lord spake unto Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, and carried them over with them unto the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. And Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests which bear the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there unto this day. For the priests which bear the ark stood in the midst of Jordan, until everything was finished that the Lord commanded. Joshua spake unto the people according to all that Moses commanded Joshua, and the people hasted and passed over. And it came to pass, when all the people were clean passed over, that the ark of the Lord passed over, and the priests in the presence of the people. And the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh passed over armed before the children of Israel, as Moses spake unto them. About 40,000 prepared for war passed over before the Lord unto battle to the plains of Jericho. On that day the Lord magnified Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him as they feared Moses all the days of his life. And the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, Command the priests that bear the ark of the testimony that they come up out of Jordan. Joshua therefore commanded the priests, saying, Come ye up out of Jordan. And it came to pass, when the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord were come up out of the midst of Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up onto the dry land, that the waters of Jordan returned into their place, and flowed over all his banks as they did before. And the people came up out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and encamped in Gilgal, in the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of Jordan did Joshua pitch in Gilgal. And he spake unto the children of Israel, saying, When your children shall ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What mean these stones? Then ye shall let your children know, saying, Israel came over this Jordan on dry land. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of Jordan from before you, until you were passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up from before us until we were gone over. That all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord, that it is mighty, that ye might fear the Lord your God forever. Okay, so here we are, 12 stones from Jordan. And you remember yesterday, when Joshua was getting instructions, the Lord had actually specifically told him at that time to pick men from each of the tribes. And this was kind of the explanation as to what their purpose was. So the Lord spoke unto Joshua and said to pick out 12 men, one from every tribe, and tell them when you go in the midst of the Jordan, so they're going to be walking through on dry land, when they get in the middle of it, where the priests' feet are, they're going to take a stone with them, and they're going to take it into their lodging place for the night, and they're going to put it there. And so he went ahead. The Lord told him that. So Joshua went, of course, and called 12 men out of every tribe. And he told them their instructions, pass over before the ark of the Lord in the midst of Jordan, and take you every man a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of tribes. This will be a sign. And the purpose of the sign was that when their children ask, what mean these stones, they can tell them that the waters of Jordan were cut off. And those stones will be a memorial unto their children forever. So that's up through verse 7. I'm going to pass that particular section over to you, and I'm going to continue. I see you're taking notes, though, of course, as soon as I want to pass it to you. You got to take those deep notes.
Number one, I don't have any application to it, although I want to. I like the wording, clean passed over Jordan. Mm-hmm. I know that there's something there.
Clean pass?
Yeah.
Let me look up the Hebrew while you talk about
that. Clean pass. I mean, that all of them. And it wasn't like, sometimes I think to myself, like Jesus when he fed the 5,000 and he had the baskets, and he didn't, it was recorded that none of it was wasted, that he didn't want to lose any of the fragments. Mm-hmm. The idea that they were all clean pass. Yeah, it says
they had finished crossing, to be complete, to be spent, to be consumed, perfect, make whole.
Yeah, and I guess that's the point that I'm making, that the Lord doesn't want any of us to be left behind or lost. Yeah. It's that whole military thing, never a man left behind. Well, the Lord is like that, and he's like that more than any soldier or man ever could be. This is more than just a earthly military operation. The Lord, he knows his sheep. And he'll leave the 99 and go after that one that's left behind. And that should encourage you tonight. If you can sit there and name 99 Christians that are on fire for the Lord, and they're serving the Lord, and they're reading their Bible, and they're praying, and you're like, man, those are the model Christians. I mean, does the Lord ever think of me? Yes, he does. Because he would go right on back. If you were in trouble, he'd leave them to go back and get you.
You're the one that strayed away.
Yes.
Here you go, grab that one.
He waited till they were all clean passed over the Jordan. Okay. He wants every one of them. Let me see. I guess I don't want to skip ahead a bunch of verses, but it's very obvious that the point tonight really is wrapped up in the thing about the children. Yeah. And it's
the whole point of it was
right. And it's
really there were 2 points, because it said the children, but then at the very end of the chapter, which we're not there yet, but it also says that they might know the hand of the Lord is mighty, and they might fear him forever.
Right. Well, I think we can get to that in a little bit. Just talking about the children right now. The idea that they were to set up these stones, and why is that? So there would be a sign that generations in the future would have a sign that they could see and understand how God worked. When your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what mean ye by these stones? A point that I wanted to make is, number one, children ask questions. People ask questions. You okay?
Yeah.
And they want to know. We can apply this to all kinds of things. Let's be practical. Mom and dad have some babies. They start going to church. They go to church every Sunday. They even leave work early on Wednesday and go to church on Wednesday. They do it for years and years and years. Those little kids get to be about talking age. Man, they even might be 6, 7, 8. And eventually it wears them down. And they look at mom and dad and say, Mom, Dad, why do we do this? all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Every Sunday, every Wednesday. Why? You know, children have a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the idea is that we as parents need to be able to answer their questions. The Lord wanted the children, the generations, to know who he is and what he had done and what he'll continue to do for the nation of Israel. And he set up these pillars, these stones, to provoke the questions.
Yes.
He wanted them to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they were there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a way, when you look at Romans chapter 1, and the Bible was talking about how the heavens declare the glory of God and such, and it talked about creation, mm-hmm. and it talked about how the unbelievers are without excuse because God has clearly shown himself, revealed himself in creation,
even his eternal Godhead.
Exactly. My point is that creation serves many purposes, mm-hmm. but one of the purposes of creation is to really provoke the question: is there a God up there? Mm-hmm. And, you know, if there is, really, I'd like to know him.
There must be a God.
There must be a God, right? But the idea is that
whoever he is the one I want.
But obviously, folks, you understand that it begins with a question. Well, who did this? You know, and that will lead you into the understanding that there's a creator.
You know, I think we can. I don't want to jump ahead too much, but just since you brought up that topic. I think we can really learn a lesson here in that when it comes to leading our children to know who the Lord is. I mean, first of all, like you said, you do have all of creation to point that out to them. Mm-hmm. If you spend time in creation with your children and you point out to them who God is and they see it in his creation, you know, that will keep them from experiencing any kind of doubt or, you know, getting too far away from him. But also having these monuments, so to speak, that we have for the times that the Lord worked in our lives as individuals, mm-hmm. that we can point out and specifically show them. I think that's also helpful too. Now, the Lord specifically chose how this one was going to be remembered. But I also think it would be helpful in our own lives if the Lord does something that's significant, mm-hmm. that's, you know, something that your family might remember that would be important to them. Something that would just reassure them of God's presence in their life and how he's working there. Maybe there's a way that you could commemorate that, you know, and I think that there are things that we commemorate. You know, we remember birthdays, which, by the way, birthdays, that's another thing that if we really think about it, it's showing how great God is, a child being born. I mean, that's a miracle, right? Mm-hmm. But like anniversaries, things like that, we commemorate things. But, you know, commemorating events that are significant. I have friends that have beaten cancer, and they know the day that they got their all clear. Mm-hmm. And they will put posts on Facebook every year and say, on this day, you know, so many years ago, I got the all clear and I'd beaten it. And it's significant to them. Mm-hmm. You know, they know that. And they'll share posts about it. They'll tell people about it. And it's something that's important. You know, there are things that the Lord has done in your life. And maybe you really need to set up some kind of memorial for, not just for you, but so that other people can say, hey, you know, what's that about? And then you can say, you know, what happened here was this huge thing happened that the Lord did, and it was amazing. You know, I know one story that we talk about, and I guess my YouTube channel is an entire memorial to that, but it's how the Lord helped us stretch our money to where we had like 1 pack of chicken breasts for a week and we made it work into meals. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's a significant one in our family. I've written blog posts about it. I've talked about it on our other YouTube channel.
So we set up a chicken as a memorial.
No, the channel's the memorial.
No, I know. I get it.
But the point is that
you set up things to remember what God has done.
Yeah, exactly.
In all seriousness, folks, we're forgetful people. Mm-hmm. We ourselves are forgetful. Mm-hmm. Years go by, time passes on, and we forget things. Mm-hmm. It's good to write things down. It's good to set up some sort of things where you can remember. that people will see, and you can be able to talk about it. I mean, everybody. I mean, people play high school football. They get they win a touchdown. You know, they score a touchdown. Forgive me. I watch football. I know you score it. You score a touchdown. And then maybe it was the game-winning touchdown. Then they gave you the old pigskin. They gave you the football,
actual football,
and you put it on a mantle. You put it in the garage or something.
You tell your grandchildren.
Yeah, well, the kids come along and say, "Well, granddad or dad, you know, well, this looks pretty old. When did you get this?" Well, let me tell you about that, Sonny. I got that back in 19 something or other, and the whole county was there. And they were cheering on Granddad. I ran down the field and won the game. They wrote me up in the paper.
Yep.
You know,
here's the article also framed right next to it.
And you set up your memorial so the grandkids know that they got a pretty cool granddad. Well, the idea is that you set up a memorial so people know that we have a great God. Okay. Exactly. And it's not about setting up an idol. This is not like setting up a golden calf or something like that.
You'll notice that it was just rocks.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea is just that you make a note. Mm-hmm. You make a note about something about what the Lord has done for you. Folks, if you keep a journal, just write it down. You know, people talk about keeping a prayer journal. People give prayer requests here, and you write down prayer requests, and you can keep it in a book, or keep it in a journal, and you pray for people. And the idea is that when the Lord answers a prayer, you should put the date beside it, that kind of thing. So you can look at those prayers, and you can see the dates of all the times that God answered prayers. And that's a memorial that we have a God who answers prayer. Mm-hmm. And if you ever get discouraged that you've been praying for something like 1,000 times and it's still, there's no answer for it, you can look back at all the times that God did answer prayer, and you say, you know what? The Lord answers prayer. You know, this is proof here that he has answered prayer. So I'm just going to keep on praying. That kind of thing. Memorials. And you can be very creative about, you know, things like I'm talking now about prayer journal. But the idea is that you set up things in your life where you can remember what God has done.
I was just thinking, I just went with my mom, or went to Myrtle Beach to pick up my mom. And while we were at the beach, I grabbed some shells from the beach just to remember the trip, right? Yep. So it doesn't have to be like anything huge. Mm-mm. I mean, it can be something simple that you just, you know, make note of. Like a lot of times when I get a shell or something, I'll take permanent marker and write the date on the back, maybe write, you know, what it was from. But the Lord didn't actually physically mark these at all. Mm-hmm. They just specifically had 12 stones in one place, and that was their purpose. But I think before you go any further, maybe we should read a little bit further, because really, honestly, the rest of the chapter, it's kind of, the Lord told them what to do, and then they do it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as you look through like verse 8, it says, and the children of Israel did as Joshua commanded. They took 12 stones out of the midst of Jordan, as the Lord had told them. Number of the tribes, they carried them over to where they lodged. They laid them down there. And Joshua was the leader, who set up the 12 stones in the midst of Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests, which bear the Ark of the Covenant, stood, and they are there unto this day. So it was the leader, Joshua, even though all the men took part in it. And I think that was so everybody felt like they had a place in it. But it was Joshua who actually physically set it up. And it says, the priests which bear the ark, the Lord had commanded that Joshua would speak to them. And when they were clean passed over, it says the priests, the ark of the Lord passed over. So all the people went, then the priests went. And he also mentioned that the children of Reuben and Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh, remember their family stayed on this side, but the warriors went and crossed the Jordan, right? They went first. And it said, on that day, the Lord magnified Joshua. But it's funny that the Lord magnified him on the day that he set up that memorial, that he took that responsibility. He led all the people. He set up the memorial. He did all the things that the Lord told him to do. And that was the day that the Lord magnified him, and the people feared him like they feared Moses. I guess it says just a little bit more here. It says, the Lord spake unto Joshua. I'm at verse 15. He says, command the priests to bear the ark of the testimony, that they come up out of the Jordan. And Joshua commanded the priests, saying, come on up out of it. So they didn't leave the Jordan until Joshua commanded them. And then the priests, when they came up out of the Jordan and the soles of their feet were on dry ground, that's when the waters went back into place. So everything was in order. You know, the Lord had everything happen. Mm-hmm. That's through verse 18, babe.
Back in verse 8, when they carried the stones over with them unto the place where they lodged and laid them down there. I was thinking of this. The stones that they had, they laid them where they were lodging, where they were. I guess the thought I'm having is that the Lord works in our life personally. I'm glad the Lord works in everyone's life. But, you know, the Lord is working in our life. These memorials are, the idea is that it's the Lord has done something personal in our life, and we want our children to know about it, kind of thing. It's a personal thing. God is a personal God. He cares about us personally. The idea that I had with the lodge, it was that it was around you. I was thinking of this, if I bring up soul winning for a minute, because we're talking about a memorial. We're talking about a really testimony of what God has done. When God saves a soul, it's like the Lord sets up a stone pillar, and everybody will see it, and it'll be
it's a testimony.
Yeah, it's a testimony. They'll say, "What's different about this person?" You know, this person. There's, you know, what, and your children will say, "Daddy, what's weird about that guy?" Well, son,
what's weird?
Yeah,
That's what it
son,
is.
That guy's a Christian. You know, he's different. You know, he doesn't do the things the world does. He doesn't say the things the world says. There's something different about him. He knows the Lord, kind of thing. The testimonies that the stones were set up where they lodged. The stones were set up where they were personally. And, you know, we talk about personal evangelism. And what I mean by that is that you evangelize the people around you. You like, this is where you live and work, and this is where you go to the store, and this is your community. Well, you draw a big circle around where you are. That's all the folks that you can influence for the Lord, and within that circle, you should be salt and light and evangelize and tell people about Christ. And as people get saved within your circle, it's like setting up a stone or setting up a pillar, and people can see that the Lord has done something. You know, it's setting up a testimony that God still saves. Jesus saves, and he still saves. He's in the saving business. Okay. So I hope I'm not getting too drawn out there, but, you know, I see that as when people get saved, there's so many, blessings that you can pull out of someone's salvation. It's a blessing for them personally, but it's also a blessing for everybody that comes in contact with them, because just the fact that they're saved points people to Jesus. When a Christian is working alongside somebody or talking to somebody, if that believer is truly living like a Christian ought to live, that Christian is living as an arrow pointing people to Christ. These stones were an arrow that pointed people to a holy God who did a work in the children of Israel. So I hope you follow what I'm saying. It's all about the memorial, really, the stones and all, and Christians and were arrows, and all of it's meant to point people to God.
I think that's really a great connection.
Because that's the whole idea of memorial.
Yes.
It's to remember. Well, remember what? Just remember anything? No, to remember God.
Yes.
The stones were meant to point people to God. It wasn't about the stones. It wasn't so the people could focus on the stones. It's so the fathers would have an opportunity to tell their children about God. So go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say was, I think it's a really good connection. And I think what I was thinking about was that, the Lord could have told Joshua, since he was the one setting it up, Joshua could have had to get all the stones, but he didn't want just the leader to be doing it. He wanted all the tribes involved. Every group was involved with bringing those stones to the memorial. Do you know what I mean? And I think when you look at it as a picture of being soul winners and leading people to the Lord as memorial to him, the idea that everyone needs to take part in it. It wasn't something that was just for one person. None of this was. They all had to be involved. Everybody had to do their part. Even the Levites were holding the ark so that they could gather the stones. Joshua, as the leader, he couldn't sit back and do nothing. He had to actually put up the memorial. So everyone had a part to play to make sure that everyone knew. First of all, everyone was there as a witness to what God had done in the first place, but then everyone took part to make sure that it was memorialized so that future generations would be aware of what the Lord had done. And I think when you look at it as soul winning, you can see how everybody plays a part in making sure there are some that are brought out, I suppose you can say, as a memorial, brought out of the mud and made into something that's a pillar for people to see and point, like you said, point to God. So I do think that there's something significant to say about everybody taking part in it. Nobody was left out. The Lord had instructions for everyone, and they just had to work together to make sure it was done. So, there's a number of pictures that you could see it as, but you see that everyone's involved. You see that the Lord gave specific instructions. You see that the leadership ensured that those instructions were carried out. You see that all of the people followed the instructions of the leader. And you can see that the result of that was they did have something valuable as a memorial for them and for future generations to make sure they knew who God was. So when you look at it like that, I think we can, you can see how that connects to the modern church and how, everybody has a part. Some people are actually physically holding up, the equivalent of the Ark of the Covenant, God's word. Some people are out there gathering stones. Some people are, just following the leader's instructions and doing the little tasks. And then, of course, you have the leadership that are making sure that the instructions are followed, memorials are set up. So everybody has a part to play. If the Lord is going to be glorified, you just have to make sure you are doing your part, and that once you do that, then the Lord is going to be lifted up.
Not to skip ahead too much, but I
was already down to verse 18. So
you read it all, and then you went back and you kind of skimming it again. So I don't feel. I feel like I can. I know. I don't feel bad about jumping around a little bit because it's not like it's not being read and explained. I was thinking in verse 14. On that day, the Lord magnified Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared, they revered, they respected him, Joshua, as they feared Moses all the days of his life. It didn't go away, it didn't fade. The Lord made Joshua a big deal, for the people. Did not make him God or somebody to be worshipped.
No, just
but
a
as
leader.
Far as a leader goes, the Lord, if as easy as I can say it, the Lord put his spotlight on Joshua and said, "This is, my man for this job. This is the one that you are going to follow." That kind of thing. And, let me say this, that's what the Lord does. And the Lord chooses a man, whether it's in a church, whether it's a leader of a family, leader of a nation, whatever it is, the Lord lifts up who he wants. And he also lets down who he doesn't want. And it's all for, the purposes of God. You look around at people, even in our modern times, and there are people just in our lifetime that had a lot of, they were well known and they did a lot for the Lord, And it wasn't because they were superhuman or they had some ability that we don't have. It was that the Lord saw it fit to lift them up and put a spotlight on them. I think of somebody like Billy Graham, just a fella from Charlotte, North Carolina. And, he was way before social media and the internet and how you could just set up a Facebook page and people on the other side of the world can see you. I mean, this was back in the day where everything seemed to be more closed. I mean, you had radio, you had TV, but only certain people got on TV. Only certain people got on the radio. Now just about anybody, like the Beatles, can have a YouTube channel and set up a little free YouTube channel, and boom, we can go all over the place. Things are different now. Well, praise the Lord. That's a good thing. The internet can be used in a mighty way for the Lord. But anyhow, getting back to like the Billy Graham thing, well, he became very well known, obviously. But he wasn't superhuman. The Lord just put a spotlight on him and said, he's my man for this job. You think of people like Moody and all the preachers of the past who were very well known, and they were very faithful in teaching and preaching God's word and leading people to him. Again, not superhuman, but the Lord magnified. He put a spotlight on them and said that this is who I'm going to use. I was thinking of this, that the Lord put a spotlight on Joshua in the sight of all of Israel, and they feared him and respected him just like they did Moses all the days of his life. And I was thinking, like, it's kind of similar. Of course, it's similar to what he did with Moses. But if you want to jump back a little bit further than that, I was thinking of Joseph in Genesis, who the Lord really magnified and put a spotlight on him. And even though he was not an Egyptian, he still became second in command in all of Egypt. The Lord put a spotlight on him before Pharaoh and before all the Egyptians. And this little guy this little young man who went to a jail and had all these people lie against him, and he had such a hard life. All of a sudden, he had a place of authority in Egypt, and he was not an Egyptian. And how'd that happen? God magnified him. It wasn't because Pharaoh was just such a kind-hearted, generous man. No, it was the Lord. Don't ever read Genesis with Joseph and think that, Pharaoh made Joseph who he became. No, God did. God builds a man, okay? And God builds a woman too. Let me just say that, but it's the Lord that magnifies. It's the Lord that puts a spotlight on somebody. And really, folks, you say, well, I want the Lord to put a spotlight on me. Just be faithful. Just be faithful and follow the Lord. Honestly and truly seek God's will and just be who God has called you to be. And don't make it about you. Make it about him. And the Lord will use you. Okay. And whether it's as big as, say, a Billy Graham, or whether it's much smaller than that, it doesn't matter. If you are fulfilling the purpose that God has for you, that's the best that you could possibly hope for. And in all seriousness, there may be people out there who did not have a radio ministry in the 50s, that maybe never got on TV, maybe never had a YouTube channel, but their influence for Jesus has been so big and so faithful that that when we all get to eternity and we're on the other side with Christ, we'll say, wow, they didn't have all the stuff, but they were just faithful to the Lord. And look at how the Lord used them in their life. See, we don't know all that God is doing. We can only see so much. But just know this, though. God is the one that builds a man and a woman. God is the one that puts a spotlight on. We should never think of each other more or higher than we should. Don't worship a Billy Graham. Worship the God who made a Billy Graham. Don't worship a Moody. Worship the God who made Moody. You read about Joseph in Genesis and you think, man, Joseph did a lot for the Lord. He did. But don't worship a Joseph. Be encouraged by Joseph in his life, but worship the God who made Joseph. All right. Again, just like those stones that were an arrow that pointed people to Christ, Joshua being magnified was really an arrow pointing people to Christ, because here you have a godly leader who served